Dobro utro and good morning, everybody. How's it going? Looks like the ho-hos are not having a very good time, but lucky for them, Russia ran out of cruise missiles. They ran out of cruise missiles. We know because our government said so. When they stopped doing cruise missiles after the first couple weeks of the war, they were out. No more. They're done. They don't have any more. They don't have any more chips for their cruise missiles. They don't have this. They don't have that. They're pirating washing machines so they can steal the chips out of them to make cruise missiles. Wow. So obviously all that coping hasn't really changed the situation on the ground. The infrastructure inside Ukraine is being dismantled, and Ukrainians are flabbergasted. They can't understand how this is happening. They seem to have bought into their own hype, and the hype from the West saying that the Russians are done, the Russians are running out of everything, the Russians don't have the capabilities. Well, apparently over the last 24 hours, we proved that they do. One of the big things that has happened is that reportedly the Russian forces are now going to limit their missile strikes to daylight. And the reasoning for this is the Ukrainian government apparently has been lying about the missile strikes at night, saying, no, this isn't what it is, that wasn't what it was, this really wasn't damage, that really wasn't, this was an accident. And so now the Russians are like, we're just going to blow up shit during daylight and all your folks can see what it is. Now, that doesn't mean that the Ukrainians aren't trying to take steps for that. There's a lot of regulations and orders going on that people aren't supposed to be talking about the attacks, but yet Ukrainian Telegram channels are just full of videos showing Russian missiles landing in their cities and taking out military bases and power plants. All sorts of really cool infrastructure that those cities and the military complex of Ukraine needs, and it's all going bye-bye. It's all going bye-bye quickly. Ukraine is now going to have to put a lot more troops on the border because Lukashenko, the leader of the Belarusian state, has decided that he and Putin are going to work together and deploy troops together. Now, Lukashenko says this is purely defensive, but we also know that the Ukrainians have been threatening his borders, and the Poles like to saber rattle with him. So it may not stay defensive too long, but at the very least, the Ukrainians are going to have to tie down troops now because they're going to worry that Lukashenko and Putin are going to cross their northern border and screw them up. Apparently the Ukrainians have bought into their own hype. They can't understand how or why it's happening to them. They're so disconnected, they don't even understand that the attack on the Kerch Bridge basically opened the door for all this. It opened the door. And now Kiev is getting a little taste of what they've been doing to the civilians in Donbass for 8 years. And I know you guys are probably tired of hearing about that. But let's be honest about this whole situation. 8 years, a government has been killing a certain ethnicity within their own country. A certain ethnicity has not been allowed to practice their religion because they are attacking Orthodox churches all over Ukraine. They've not been allowed to speak their language, and they're not only second-class citizens, they're just considered as a weed, something they didn't want. And so they've been eradicating the ethnic Russians in Ukraine. And they've been doing it with every military option that they've had available. Now, the Russians have taken that and visited upon cities who've not seen that. Kiev, Lvov, all these other cities, Zaporozhye, all these other cities that have not seen any of this. And the Ukrainians are stunned. They can't believe it's happening to them. They don't understand why it's happening to them. They've probably been watching CNN because CNN hasn't been fair about this for about a year. It was amazing, you know, all you folks in the press, the Rolling Stone, all these news, so-called news outlets, had stories about how Ukraine was the most corrupt country in Europe, how there were Nazis all over the place. And then suddenly all that dried up on the eve of war. Isn't that amazing? And they're trying to go back through and purge a lot of these stories. They don't want you to be able to read. This is the most interesting thing about the internet. You know, I used to think the internet was a great thing as far as putting out information and being able to go and, you know, find anything you want at your fingertips. What I didn't understand is, like Big Brother, they could very simply purge everything that doesn't match the current narrative. They can go back and remove articles, they can go back and remove information, and suddenly it never happened. And it doesn't exist in print because we're no longer a print-bound world. It's no longer in print that you can say, hey, look at this. Look at this. Look what was said. No, it was on the internet, it was digital, and now it's gone. And they're working on removing these things. There are videos on YouTube that don't show up anymore. You can search them all you want, and they're not there. And if you notice, you can search certain things, and the YouTube algorithm will give you what it wants you to see, not what you want to see. And big tech is just screwing your mind, left and right, folks. Left and right. There's no freedom. They're guiding you. You're just a poor child. You must be guided to everything. You're not allowed to make up your mind yourself. You must be guided to follow the great narrative. And it's sad. It is absolutely sad. And there's not enough people questioning it. There's not enough people questioning all this. They just, you know, I used to say back, man, for decades I've been saying, you can outlaw any right in the Bill of Rights that you want, and there won't be a revolution. There will be a revolution if you try to outlaw football and beer on Sunday. You want to see a revolution? Ban football. You know, circuses and bread. Circuses and bread. The entertainment of the people cannot be interrupted. And we're watching a Russian military that we've been told is incompetent, that's losing a war, go in and systematically dismantle. Now, I've had people I know on Facebook make the comment, well, I think all this restraint that Putin claims to have been using is disingenuous. Okay. You know, I don't think it's disingenuous, because if you were watching both sides of the situation, which they've taken great steps in this country to keep you from seeing both sides, you would know that a lot of Russians have been taking issue with Putin, that Putin was too soft. And it's not that they didn't have the capability to do this. This is the same capability they've always had. They just chose not to because they didn't feel that it was beneficial to their special military operation. You know, we talk the talk, but we don't walk the walk when it comes to this so-called restraint. And the Russians have. They went into the detriment of their own people and went in soft. And if it's disingenuous that there wasn't restraint, then please explain to me. Type it out in the comments below. Let me know why Putin's disingenuous about not taking out all this infrastructure on day one. Why were the lights on? Why were there still discos operating in Kiev? Why were people able to charge their cell phones and post selfies on Instagram? Why? Why? It's not that Russia couldn't have stopped it. They can. They're doing it right now. And I saw, it was interesting. We've been always told about how Russia's running out of this, Russia's running out of that. Well, somebody did a analysis of what the United States government claims that they think Russia has. And basically, with the numbers, it came out to Russia could launch 100 missiles a day for 6 months before they'd run out. 100 missiles a day for 6 months. So you guys that seem to think this is a one-off, you know, I kind of was wondering what I was going to see this morning, whether Russia was going back to business as usual or whether they were going to continue to dismantle the Ukrainian infrastructure. Well, it's fairly obvious. They are dismantling the infrastructure of Ukraine. The lights are going out. And they're going to work these power plants. They're going to continue to work them until there's just so much damage. They're not going to be repairable. They're not going to be repairable in an easy manner. And it didn't have to be this way. Had the United States government not decided to pump millions of dollars and trick folks into going to go fight for these people, they would have gave up long ago. But hey, they've been pumped full of hope, propaganda, and everything else. They're like, there is no difference between Kiev today and Berlin in 44, 45. No difference. The people are absolutely assured that they're going to win. In fact, it's a shock to them. It's much like the shock when there were air raids on Berlin for the first time. Just shock. How could this be? The Luftwaffe will save us. How can this be? And it's really where everything is. If you study history and you paid attention and you don't buy into the current hype, you understand exactly where everything is. You understand why the Ukrainians are detached from reality. You understand why there was never hope of Ukraine winning this thing. I mean, that's the thing of rainbows and unicorns. It just doesn't fucking exist. It's not real. It's all an illusion. Same as a rainbow is an illusion, a Ukrainian victory is an illusion. And that's, honestly, folks, where they're at. So that's all I got for you this morning. We'll see what the afternoon brings. I guess probably the biggest laugh of the morning was a Ukrainian posted, you know, you remember all the people fleeing Crimea? Well, nobody's leaving Kiev. Nobody's leaving Kiev, and that's how we know we're going to live. Yet, an hour before, somebody posted a video of traffic jams of people in a hurry to get out of Kiev. Why? Because they don't want to get bloated up. They don't want the world to hurt that's coming. And apparently, it sounds like Kiev's a little nervous about what's going on because they've started deploying mines on the roads leading in and out of the city. So maybe Zelensky knows something we don't. Interesting that they're going back to a war footing around Kiev. I thought the Russians were done. How's this possible? Are you feeling lied to yet? You probably should. Because you have been lied to. And they're continuing to lie to you. That's why they continue to only give you one side of the story. Anyhow, folks, that's all I got time for this morning. I will talk to you later. Bye.